So to dismiss our pop-up here, it's very simple. There is indeed a method we can call to dismiss our dialog. Now, before we even do that, let's think about something very interesting. As we save items in our database here, we want to make sure ultimately that, like I said before, when we save, we get out of this, right, this pop-up, but also we want to be able to return a new activity, in this case, that will then have the items that we've been saving, also items that have been privately added there, showing in this view. So we're going to do a little trick here in a sense that we're going to do what we call the user interface trick, that users are not going to be able to see what's going on. They're just going to see things popping up in a very orderly manner. So first of all, let's go ahead and get this dismiss to work. So inside of a create pop-up, I'm going to go there, and I am going to make sure that at some point here, I want to get rid of our dismiss. But where do we actually get rid of our dismiss? So the save item is happening here instead of a save item. So let's click and probe in and see inside what's going on. So we have save item, we have all the code that we wrote. At what point do we actually want to get rid of our view? In this case, our pop-up. Well, it could be that we just want to get rid of it right now. So we can just come down here and say dialog, because we have access to that, and say dismiss. Okay, there we go. Dialog then will dismiss. But this is not really what we want, because although I should say it is what we want, but we want to do something extra. We want to be able to actually wait for about a second or so and then dismiss the dialog. And while we dismiss this, we want to also start a new activity. This new activity is going to be what we call the list view activity, which is going to list all the items that we've just added, or I should say the item that we just added. Okay, so I'm going to just do the following. I'm going to use a post delay method from the handler class. So I'm going to go ahead and say new handler. As such, make sure we're using the handler Android OS, right? And say dot post delayed like this, and we have to pass a new runnable class there like that in the interface. With an interface, as you know by now, we have to implement this run method, but most importantly, we also have to remember the interface, in this case the handler. We have to pass how long will this wait before it runs. In this case, we have to pass the time in delay in millisecond, as you can see there. So I'm going to say about 1200 milliseconds, which is equivalent of about a little bit over 1 second. Put a semicolon there. Okay. So this, whenever you want to delay something or wait for a bit and then do something, you just use a handler object and invoke the post delay, in which we'll have to pass a runnable interface. Okay, this runnable interface will have obviously to override the run method. So this is where we put the code that must run. Code to be run. So what is that we're going to be running? Well, first of all, we're going to say dialog.dismiss to get rid of our dialog. But next here, that's where we are going to actually, this to do, remember? That's where we're going to move to the next screen. Right. So how do we move to the next screen? I'm going to say start activity, because we're not passing anything, so I don't have to create an intent like we usually do separately. I'm going to pass our new intent inside there, and I'm going to say main.this, and we're going to go to ListActivity.class, which we haven't created yet. That's why we have this problem there. All right, so let's go ahead and create this list activity real quick here. So we're going to go to project, layout, say new. I'm going to create an activity. I'll just say I want an empty activity for that matter. List activity like this. Say OK. It's going to create all of that. And you notice at some point we don't have this problem at all, because now we have our list activity. So in our list activity that we just created here, it's where we're going to go ahead and populate what is in our database. So it's going to be so fast to where the user is just going to see the pop-up going away, and all of a sudden a new activity is going to be shown with the item that they've just added. Very good. So now there's nothing in here. It's okay. I'm just going to go ahead and give it a run real quick here so we can see our dismiss actually working, and hopefully we're able to go to the next activity as well. But in this case, we'll have to obviously add a new baby item, which in fact, is a good thing because babies need a lot of things. In this case here, okay, I'm going to say hats, quantity, 23, color, pink, size is going to be, let's say, 1 month. Let's go ahead and save. A few seconds later, voila, you can see now we see the other activity. So it is working as intended. Of course, we can go back, but that was just an activity, and we'll fix that navigation later. All right, so let's go ahead and set up our activity list here. Well, first of all, this activity list has to have a recycler view. So let's go ahead and add a recycler view real quick. I'm gonna come down here and look for recycler view. There we go, we have to download it, as you can see there. I'll make this a little bit bigger. I'm gonna just download it first. There we go, it's already there. And next, let's perhaps make this bigger. I'm going to take this and put right in there. Very good. Put those constraints that we love. That's nice, it looks very nice. I'm gonna go to text so I can see exactly what's going on. So our recycle view here, these are good sizes. Let's go ahead and give an ID because we're going to be needing that for obvious reasons. Recycler view like that. Okay, very good. So we have that. All the things that we need are good. All right. So we have a recycle view. You know, we don't need to do much so far, at least for now. And what we need to do now is actually go down and create the actual row, right? The recycle view row, so we can actually put together the text views and whatever it is that we want to show. So let's come back to our resources here. Inside of our layout, I'm going to right click just like we did with pop-up there, layout resource. I'm going to just make this, instead of constraint layout, I'm going to just put straight a linear layout. That's easier for us. Okay. And I'm going to give it a name here. This is going to be list row and just say okay. Okay, so we have our list row here. So we're going to go into text here because it's much easier and it's good to do some coding as well. I enjoy that. You don't have to do it, but I'm old school, I guess, and I like sometimes to do things hard way. All right, let's make sure first that we have a card view here, just because we know that we can, yep, we do already have a card view, seems like, because we've used that before. Very good. So I'm going to come here and actually create a card view like that. I'm going to say match parent. Okay. And I'm going to add an ID because it's always a good idea. Card view. Very good. So inside now, I'm going to create a relative layout because I want to lay things out in such a way that it's much easier. I'm going to say match parent for the layout width. The height, I'm going to say also match parent. So it's going to be spanning the whole thing. So we don't need to add an ID, but I'm going to give a general padding here of about 15 dp. Okay, so inside of our relative layout, I'm going to put a text view. I'm going to make wrap content. Okay, give it an ID. This is going to be item name as such. Text for now, I'm going to just say app name because for the lack of a better things there. Size, I'm going to say I want this to be about 18 SP. Notice SP, it's for text size. DP, it's for anything else. All right, so I want a text style to be bold. That's original. And that's good for that one there. And I'm going to copy this. I'm going to create another one down here. This is going to be quantity. Such. That's fine. And I want this to be below the ID we added, name, item, like that. So it's going to be there. And I don't want it to be bold. Instead, I want it to be italic, like that. Everything is good. I'm going to give a padding top of about 4 dp. Just a little padding around it at the top. Very good. And I'm going to continue here. Next is going to be item date. I want this to be italic. I want this to be below the previous one we had, which was quantity. Actually, let's see. We say this item quantity. There we go. All right, it's working. And we're going to continue. What else? So we have date. In fact, that should be the last one. So I'm going to add something else here. Let's see. In this case, I'm going to add, we have quantity, color, italic is fine. If that's the color, then that means this has to be below color, like that. Okay, there's a lot of things going on there, but that's totally fine. And the color, I'm going to add one more, which is going to be the size. Right. Which means I have to change this to item size. All right, so we have all this information there. All these items are going to be inside of our views. In this case, it's going to be inside of our card view. Okay, very good. So we can't see much right now, but we will in a second there. All right, so the next thing we're going to do here is I want to add a few buttons around. Now, these buttons here, I want them to be to the right. So they're going to be somewhere around here. So what I'm going to do, even below here, I'm going to create another XML widget, layout widget here called table row. Ah, the beauty. So the table row, as the name implies, allows us to put things in a row, and we can specify how the row will look like. First of all, I'm going to make sure that this layout alignment is going to be parent and to be true. So this whole thing you can see now is all the way to the right. So that makes sense. Okay. And also, because I know it's a row of some sort, I'm going to say orientation. We can change that. We want this to be horizontal, like that. And margin top, I want to have a margin top of about 15 dp, so that you can see it moved below a little bit. And I'm going to say layout align bottom. I want it to align to the bottom of what? To the date item. So notice now it went to the bottom here. That's what we want. Very good. So at this point here, I think we're good. However, maybe I'm going to say layout width to wrap content, height also to wrap content as such for good measure. There's nothing inside yet. That's why you can't quite see everything, but it's fine. Now we're going to add a button. So the first button here, I'm going to give it an ID, of course, because that's what we do, say ID. And this one is going to be edit button, like that. Very good. And next I'm going to add width of about 30 dp, so very small, and height of also about 30 dp. And because I want to make sure that it has some sort of icon, in fact, let's say margin right to about 15 dp, so that it moves to the left a little bit, as you saw there. Looks like this is no longer available. Let's change that to whatever they are asking to do. All right, so that's what they want us to use now, margin end. Very good. Just follow what they want you to do. It always works best. So I'm going to also add a background here. So background, I'm going to use the Android namespace. I'm going to go to drawable. And what I actually want is IC edit, menu edit as such. So you can see now we have that very nice icon to edit for editing items, right? Very good. So it's looking really, really good. And I'm going to do the same thing with the next button here, which is going to be a delete. In fact, I can copy this real quick here. Look at that. There's another one. So in this case, it's going to be delete button. And then everything is all right. Of course, I'm going to say delete. And there is that delete button there. All right. Very good. So now we have our user interface, at least the row, that's what it's going to show. So it's going to show the baby item name and all of other items there too. So notice that I added all of these that are the same so that we can actually just see. Obviously, these are going to change dynamically. Very good. So at this point here, what we need to do is to create the actual recycler view adapter. And you know how to create a recycle view already. So go ahead and do that, create a recycle view, and make sure that you inflate our list row and get all set up. All right? Great. I'll see you in the next video.